Alright everyone, Cowboy Trades here. Welcome back to the channel for another rundown on everything you need to know coming into this week for Bitcoin and Solana. There's a lot of news to talk about today. There's a lot of things that I want to break down before we jump into the charts. So let's just dive right into today's video. So first of all, one of the most important things we've got coming into this week is of course the next FOMC meeting. This is going to be coming tomorrow on the 31st of January at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Now, all different signs in the markets where you're looking at probabilities, whether you're looking at the Fed fund futures, the markets are once again saying, and the Fed is once again saying, that they're going to stay higher for longer. There's no indication that they're going to raise the rates this month, and there's no indication that they're going to cut them either. One thing that I do want to touch on, just a recap of the last meeting, is that the Fed once again said higher for longer. They're looking at about a 0.75% rate cut to happen throughout all of 2024, with the appropriate mean level of the Fed funds rate being around about 4.6% by the end of the year, which, to put things in a charting perspective, we're currently here at 5.5%. This would be a drop of around about 16.5% down to this level. So still extremely elevated rates. Once again, Fed fund futures, all different probability spectrums across the board, are indicating that Fed funds are going to stay higher for longer. So I wouldn't expect this to come anytime soon. There are some different people talking about rumors of Powell talking about how he's very happy with his inflation progress and we should be seeing cuts in February or March. I think that's a tiny little bit too soon. However, one key date that I do want you to keep your eyes on is going to be round about November of this year, where we do have the next presidential election happening in the US. Now, why is this significant? Well, as all presidents do, and if you have noticed this before, whenever there's a presidential election, the markets tend to do very, very well because whoever's the president at the time kind of foregoes the future of the economy and looks at the economy in that year and says, hey, we need to make the economy boom in this year. So all of the consumers, everyone in the US is saying, hey, the economy is doing really well right now. Why would I want to change president? So that's normally what happens around about the presidential years. So this is one thing that you might want to keep your eyes on. If we are going to see, somewhat of a booming economy, you would probably expect for Biden to want to cut rates coming into just before November. So we do see potentially, in his perspective, a boom to happen around about November time. Anyway, let's move on to the cryptocurrency segment for today's video. Now, the main thing that you want to take away is going to be obviously what's happening with all of the spot Bitcoin ETFs. Now, if we're looking at the net inflow outflow overalls for all of these different Bitcoin ETFs, which have been approved in the past, what was it, about 12 days ago they were approved. So we're currently on day 12. As you can see, for pretty much every single one of these ETFs, besides Grayscale BTC, which turned to a spot ETF, all of these other ETFs have been seeing, small but significant inflows every single day, apart from when they cease trading. However, if we're looking at the Grayscale ETF, you saw about 100 million in outflows. The next day was almost 500 million. The day after that, the next trading day, was almost 600 million. The day after that, 460 million. The day after that, 580 million net outflows, not inflows. Then you saw 600 million, 600 million, and then this is where we start to see a change in the trend. After this, following the 22nd of January, the next trading day, you saw 500 million worth of outflows. Then you saw 400 million again. Then it dropped to 250 million. And yesterday, it dropped to 191 million. So while this is happening, we're seeing the GBTC outflows, they're starting to decrease. There's only so much they can outflow in these markets. And during that time, in the past 11 to 12 days where these ETFs have been trading, the ETFs collectively have bought over 6 billion USD worth of Bitcoin. So this is definitely a very, very bullish sign. Now, this person left a very funny and true comment. This chart looks a lot better with Grayscale BTC removed, because if this was on the chart, you would see something like this with just a massive drop down to the downside. Now, they've obviously excluded this for one reason or the other. But, if we're looking at all of these ETFs, they're starting to turn positive. The total spot inflow-outflow ratio is moving to the upside at this moment in time. Yesterday, with 250 million of total inflows collectively moving into the market. So there's only so much that GBTC can dump. There's only so many outflows that can happen from this market. And once those outflows from GBTC start going from, 600 million outflows, 500 million, 400 million, 300 million outflows, 200 million outflows, 100 million outflows, to positive 100 million, positive 500 million, positive 1 billion. And we're seeing these cumulative changes stack up and up and up and up. And, this just continues to happen all of the time moving into the halving, all of the time after the halving. For the next year or so, we've got a bull run like we've previously seen with retail money, some institutional money dabbling, but you've now got these big ETF funds adding every single day. Every single day you're seeing these inflows. So this is very, very bullish in my opinion. This is one of the reasons why, when the spot ETF came out, a lot of people which were previously bearish, including myself, changed their tune, because this is just absolutely insanely bullish. I don't know how anyone can really be bearish when we have a spot ETF. If it's a futures ETF, futures ETF doesn't mean anything. If it's a spot ETF, that's a whole different can of worms. So I think that can of worms has been opened. I think we're at the point of no return for Bitcoin right now, and I think this bull run is going to be very, very interesting. So let's move on to the charts. That was a long news segment. There was a lot to talk about. Let's dive right into the charts. Now, macro overview. Like we talked about in the last previous Bitcoin video, I am still expecting one last macro pump to the upside before we see any sideways chop. Now, the sideways chop is really just based around the fact that in the next couple of months, let's say it's 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, I am expecting that interest rate cut to happen. Now, we've previously talked about this on the channel. We've pulled up loads of charts, so I won't spend any more time talking about it. But, in the lower time frames, if you have an interest rate cut previously, there was one over here. What you saw was like one big green candle to the upside and then a massive correction. And I know what people are going to say, oh, we only had this correction because of COVID. Well, COVID was right here, and we corrected, from round about the 24th of June after the rates were cut. We corrected for about 180 days worth of absolute brutal, mutilation to the downside, from about 14,000 down to about 6,500 before the financial turmoil happened around about March 2020. So this is really what I am seeing. Now, I don't expect something like this to happen again. Like I said, the spot ETFs, these inflows that we're seeing, cumulatively just continue to stack up, and I believe they'll continue to stack up. I really think this changes the dynamic of this bull run over any previous bull run that we've seen in Bitcoin's history. However, I can't just say that the charts are just going to go up in a straight line and it's just going to be, 100,000 in 2 months time, 200,000 in 3 months. Like, I think obviously corrections are still going to happen. We saw that as soon as the ETFs went live. A lot of retail players were selling into the market, and while the retail players were selling into the market, once again on this channel we said dips were for buying. Who was buying the dip? If you were selling to all of these big spot ETF funds, which are going to sell them to a premium for all of their customers. So this is what I'm expecting. I'm personally expecting a rally up to around about 53,500. This is going to be filling the CME gap. If we come over to the Bitcoin CME futures, you can see it is right here, 53,695 approximately. Somewhere around about this region is going to be where the CME gap is going to be filled, at which point I would not be surprised if we just stalled out and had a very healthy correction. Maybe it's a month, maybe it's 2 months. It wouldn't be the end of the world in my opinion. I really don't think it's going to be a super nasty correction. I don't think we're going to come and fill this 20k CME gap now we've got spot ETFs live. I just think there'd be too many inflows. These funds would line their ETFs with all of the premiums that they've made from it, knowing that they're going to make that money back when they sell them at higher prices. So I just don't see those levels happening. I see something like this happening. Maybe we come back down to this trend line one more time, and then we blast up into new bull run highs, coming into roundabout where the election cycle is going to be in November. Now, that doesn't mean we have to wait until November to see new all-time highs. Like I said, roundabout the election time in November, that's when Biden, who's the current president, he's going to want to see the economy booming at that moment in time, because then he could say, hey, when Trump was president, blah, 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 but look at what happened when I'm president. Look how good the economy is right now. So he's going to want to have that in his bag. Now, I'm not going to get political. I don't even live in the US, so, I don't even really have a super big stake in things. But, this is just from a common sense perspective, from an economical perspective as well. It makes sense why the president, whoever's the existing president, whether it was Trump, Hillary, Biden, you name it, they're going to want the economy to do well when the election cycle comes around, because that's going to be another argument for them to say, hey, why would you want to change president right now? Look at the economy, it's doing so well. So this is kind of what I expect to see. So it could end up looking something exactly like this, in the few months round about, June, July, August time, just before the election cycle. That's when they're going to want the economy to start heating up again. So this is really what I'm expecting for Bitcoin. 53,500, a macro correction. Whether it has to come down to something like this, whether it just trends sideways, whether it, slowly goes up a bit, slowly down, slowly up, slowly down, and then comes up, it really doesn't matter. A slight accumulation phase after we fill the CME gap into the next proper bull run is my personal prediction for Bitcoin. Now, in the lower time frames, this is what I want to talk about. Now, there's a few things that you want to look at when you are looking at this chart. First of all, we get rid of the Bollinger Band so we can really focus on the TMA strategy. We are closing green candles above the 20 TMA right now. So in the short term, for a lower TMA strategy, that is looking very bullish. However, the one that I personally like to use the most is going to be the 50 TMA strategy. Remember, I made a video on this absolutely ages ago. This was on August the 21st when I talked about the best Bitcoin strategy. What we were doing is we were back testing this strategy based on Bloomberg statistics, and we found that this strategy was the most profitable out of all Bitcoin strategies that at least you can implement over on Bloomberg with a certain set of commands. Now, let's look at this. At this moment in time, this is really the level that you do want to get above. 43,500. Let's call it 43,500. I think you really do want to get above this level. It doesn't have to happen today. As you can see, the daily stochastic RSI is topping out at this moment in time, which could mean that, hey, for the next 24 hours or so, we could just come down and reset. It doesn't have to be too brutal. A lot of the time, the stochastic can reset in one day, and then as it continues to break down, you just see like some sort of slight chop to the downside. If we are pulling up the Bollinger Bands at this moment in time, you can see we are above the heart line of the Bollinger Band strategy on the daily. So all in all, potential upside for the next 24 hours or so could be as high as 45,000 rather, although I don't see it that high. If we are pulling up the EMA ribbons, what you can see, there's so many moving averages on the screen right now. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of this. Let me get rid of this. If we're looking at the EMA ribbons right now on the daily, they are extremely tight. So when I'm looking at this top in the stock, really one of the most bullish scenarios I could think of is Bitcoin having a slight correction back down to 42,000 approximately. The Bollinger Bands would be extremely tight at that moment in time, and then you could just absolutely see an incredible blast back up to the upside. Now, let's come over to the 4-hour time frame. As you can see, 4-hour stochastic RSI is resetting, very healthy. We are above the 4-hour EMA ribbons. In terms of the Bollinger Band strategy, we have just exited the top of the Bollinger Band. So a lot of signals, at least for the next 4, 8, 12 hours, are saying we could have a slight correction. However, if we're looking at everything else as a whole, I definitely think Bitcoin has got a lot of room to start moving to the upside. Now, if we are coming over to the weekly time frame, as you can see, we are above the 50 TMA. We're above all of the important moving averages. If we come back over to the daily, just so I can show you this green line here, we flipped this previous resistance on this horizontal box as support, and we are heading back up to the upside. And while the price is moving to the upside for the past couple of days, the stochastic RSI is pretty much down at 0. So we have almost completely reset the weekly stochastic RSI. And this is one of the signs why I'm saying, hey, look at the 4-hour. We're having a slight correction now since we topped out at, what was it here? 44,000 basically. We're having a slight correction now on the 4-hour. On the daily, it's saying, we really need to get above 44,400, 43,500 approximately. But we don't have to do that today. It's very healthy after seeing this massive rally from 48,500 that we could just be seeing a correction for the next 4, 8, 12 hours, maybe 24 hours. Once again, like I said, dips are for buying. I'm looking at the higher time frames. I'm looking at the weekly, and we're above every single level that we would want to be above. So this is once again why I'm thinking Bitcoin lollygag maybe for the next couple of hours, 24 hours. It really doesn't matter too much. If you do see a significant drop, you're looking at things like, the TMA strategy over on the daily time frame. If you do see, Bitcoin come back down to these EMA ribbons, the heart line of the Bollinger Bands, around about 41,700 or so, I could be looking to position myself in a long position. Nonetheless, you know my thoughts. Let's move on to the next segment of today's video, and that's just going to be a quick update on Solana. Now, I really just want to quickly update the charts and also just talk about Solana priced against different assets. Now, Solana macro overview, you know what I'm thinking. 618 Fibonacci up here, we've been talking about it, $169. This is where I think we are going to in the immediate short term. Now, in the immediate short term, let's say 2, 3, 4 weeks, preface that so people don't think I'm saying 24 hours. On the daily time frame, as you can see, once again, very similar picture to Bitcoin. That previous resistance has been flipped to support. We've broken to the upside of this bull flag. The price target of this, which I don't think we're going to hit anytime soon, is up here at $236. So once again, I don't really think I'm going to be looking at this bull flag as a target. I'm just going to be looking at this bull flag as a structure and acknowledging that we've broken to the upside of this. If you just want to call this a descending channel that we've broken to the upside of, even better. That sounds even better to me, because $230 in the immediate short term for Solana. I'm a big Solana bull. You know, it's pretty much the only altcoin that I'm covering right now, and I'll talk to you about why that's the only altcoin I'm really covering right now in a second. But let's play it realistically here. I think $169 up here at the 618 Fibonacci is a very bullish price target. And like we saw Bitcoin have a little bit of a problem when we ran into that 618 Fib. As you can see right here, boom, we had a correction. We're still bullish, but we just needed a little bit of a momentum reset. We could see the same thing for Solana. So for the next few weeks or so, I'm just expecting that continuation back up to the upside. Now, if we are putting Solana on the Bollinger Bands and we are looking at a TMA strategy, you can see on the daily time frame, we have just left the Bollinger Bands at around about $106.60. On the 4-hour time frame as well, you can see we've left the Bollinger Bands. So what you'd really be looking at is the support on the daily time frame at the TMA strategy, round about $98 to $100. $100 is going to be a psychological level. 98, if let's say we have an SFP, everyone knows $100 is the price target that everyone who's bullish on Solana, they've been waiting for this level to break for the past week or so. You know, you really want to see Solana above $100. So let's say Solana comes down to $100. Let's say it doesn't quite hold it. We have a quick SFP back test, the TMA strategy at around about $99, $98, and we have an SFP, we move back above $100. You know, that would reset pretty much all of the indicators, and at that point I'd be saying, hey, Solana's going to move back up to this previous local top at $126, and when $126 clears, that is going to be free reign to move up to the next target on the weekly time frame at 169. So this is my thoughts on Bitcoin. There's the news. That's my thoughts on Solana. I really want to wrap up on one final segment. Of course, we've got Jupiter, the JUP Airdrop coming in. I believe it's going to come in tomorrow. They have delayed this a tiny bit, so it's a little bit difficult to get an exact date on this because they say one date and then it gets delayed a tiny bit. So I think this is going to come probably either tomorrow on the 31st of January or it's going to come on the 1st of February. I think it makes sense for them to kind of just try and push this out as hard as quickly as possible. This is meant to be Jupiter. I can't really pronounce that too well, but Jupiter in January, something like that. So it makes sense that they do the airdrop in January, but nonetheless, keep your eyes out for that. I will keep you up to date over on my Twitter, so make sure to follow me at 618_cowboy. Now, moving on to the final charts that I want to show on Solana. One of the main reasons why I've been so focused on Solana recently, and you know, yes, I've got my eyes on other altcoins, but Solana, in my opinion, is going to be one of the most important cryptocurrencies in this entire cycle. Look at Sol BTC. Solana is almost making new highs against Bitcoin. Let's look at Solana against Ethereum. This cycle, Solana made new all-time highs against its Ethereum pair. Solana's looking incredibly bullish against Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let's look at Solana against Matic. Matic is meant to be a quote-unquote Solana killer and an Ethereum killer. If we're looking at Matic, you know, Sol Matic rather, Solana's almost made a new all-time high against its Matic pair. If we're looking at this, Solana is about a 30% move away from making new all-time highs against Matic. And, you know, one of the other ones is Solana against Cadena. It's about to make new all-time highs against the Sol KDA pair. Now, I know a lot of people are looking at Cadena. I know a lot of people have seen this move from about 40 cents up to $1, and they think this is the most bullish thing in the world. But look at Solana against Cadena. Yes, Cadena's doing well against the US dollar. At this moment in time, in the asset market, what isn't doing well against the US dollar? But Solana against KDA is getting absolutely destroyed. Cadena is in a very, very nasty bear market against Solana at this moment in time. So if we go on KDA USD, a lot of you don't know that you can do this. You might be looking at this chart right now and you might be thinking, how is this guy charted Solana against KDA? When I type in Sol KDA, I don't see anything. When I type in KDA Sol, I don't see anything. Well, this is one of the reasons why you want to come over and check out my educational playlist over on YouTube. If you come on YouTube, click on playlist, scroll down, look at the educational series, click view full playlist. You can see I've got a plethora of different videos teaching you pretty much everything you need to know about the markets. And there is one video over here, if I can find it, called How to Comparing Other Asset Classes Against Bitcoin. And in this video, I basically break down how you can chart Bitcoin specifically against a ton of different assets, you know, whether that's gold, the S&P 500, etc., which you can't do by just typing in the basic command of, you know, Bitcoin oil or Bitcoin gold over on TradingView. So I'll show you quickly one way that you can do this. So I want to look at how Cadena's doing against Solana to prove my point. So, you know, KDA USD is doing good, at least in the lower time frames. I'm really still not super bullish on Cadena, but let's come over to this segment over here. So let's type in KDA Sol. We want to look at KDA Sol, right? All you want to do is type in KDA USD. That's going to get us one chart of Cadena against the US dollar, and we're going to divide that by Sol USD. Now you're going to notice there's no function for this, but that's fine. We're going to get an aggregate KDA USD and an aggregate Sol USD. Just hit enter, and boom. As you can see, this is Cadena's price relative to Solana, not against the US dollar, not against Bitcoin. This is the KDA Sol pair. Now, as you can see, it's not looking too good. If we come back to 2021, you know, this was the bottom where Cadena outperformed Solana for quite some period of time. Up at one point in time, Cadena was worth about 0.115 Solana, which is very impressive. Up here, it was about 0.12 Solana, very impressive. But at this moment in time, it's decreased. 1 KDA isn't even worth 1% of a Solana. And as you can see, the bear market lows are down here. And you tell me, you know, look at this chart. Cadena does not look too good against Solana. So sure, Cadena's looking okay against the US dollar. Most assets are looking good against the US dollar at this moment in time. We are moving into a bull run, but once again, you know, I'm not trying to shit on Cadena. I don't hate Cadena. I still am looking for a good entry on Cadena, but for me to get a good entry on Cadena, I need a really good price, because right now, as you can tell by my YouTube videos, I'm very invested in Solana, and it's not just Sol USD. If you've been part of my Discord, then you can see we've been calling all of these different small caps, which have been doing absolutely ridiculous gains. You know, these meme coins, altcoins that we've been calling built on top of Solana, these calls that we've been making have just been doing, you know, 2.5x's, 2x's, 2x on this one. Some of these, you know, this did a 3x. Like, there's so many of these altcoins built on top, you know, these SLP tokens on top of Solana, where even though the price of Solana was going down for the past week or so, when we were looking at the daily, you know, we saw Solana come down from 126 all the way down to 78. Yes, Sol USD was losing money, but there were so many meme coins which were just going absolutely ballistic on Solana, like literally an altcoin season just on Solana. So once again, I'm not hating on Cadena. I'm not putting Cadena down for this. I do still like Cadena. At some point, I think this KDA Sol chart is going to reverse and Cadena is going to outperform Solana at one point in time. But at this moment in time, I would just be looking for a better entry on Cadena at this moment in time. So that's just my personal opinion. And once again, not just necessarily focus on Cadena. That's just what I know a lot of people want to, you know, talk about at this moment in time. But, you know, Solana is just outperforming every single altcoin, really. And it's a blue chip altcoin, so there's a lot more inherent risk with investing in a smaller altcoin market cap like Cadena than there is in investing in a blue chip like Solana. So the fact that a blue chip is just absolutely outperforming everything, it means it's got lower risk and it's got higher reward, which just sounds absolutely crazy. So I really think Solana summer, you know, the Solana narrative is going to be very prevalent this bull run. Anyway, I've gone off for quite some time, but there we go. There's the news in terms of the markets, what you need to keep your eyes on for the FOMC. There's the news for the cryptocurrency ecosystem. There's the Bitcoin update. There's the Solana update. I'll see you very soon. As soon as there's something to talk about, we'll be back. Make sure to follow me over on Twitter at 618_cowboy so you don't miss anything. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button, leave a comment, share the videos with your friends. New videos every week. We interrupt this outro for just a quick shill. Make sure to come and join the Discord. If you're not in the Cowboy Discord already, what are you doing? I'm going to give you one last chance to join. This is today over on YouTube, the 30th of January. Something may be coming. I don't know. Maybe the 30th of January is the last time that you can join and get in on something. If you want to click on YouTube, click on the About section. My Discord is linked there. It's also in the comments, in the description of every single video. Make sure you come and join. Don't wreck yourself. It's been your boy Cowboy Trades. I'll see you soon. I'm out. Peace.